because I got a lot of people that I need to get to today. I mean, I'm just so grateful for all you guys coming out today because this is so super important. By the amount of people here today, man, this is a start, and I'm fired up because I know we're going somewhere, and we're going to shut it down, all right? I'd like to welcome Jill Hines up, if she'd like to come up and say a couple words. Now, Jill Hines has been on the front lines of this whole deal, okay? She is fighting for every one of y'all's medical rights and your medical freedom, okay? She is an all-star. She's doing big things, and she is not going to quit fighting, all right? I'm going to let her talk for just a few minutes.
I kept thinking, I hope I don't have to go after Russell. And then I thought, I hope I don't have to go after Lena. And here I am. You got me. Do you mind if I borrow this? Okay. I don't have quite the energy. Oh, possible to go closer? Oh, not so far away for you guys. Thank you very much. I feel like I need to do some jumping jacks or something after all I know, right? My name again is Jill Hines. I'm co-director of Health Freedom Louisiana. We're a consumer and human rights advocacy organization. And as Lance mentioned, we have been battling this from the get-go. Like, we started early on in 2020. We started communicating, we started sending communications to the governor, to LDH, Department of Education. They continued to ignore us repeatedly, but we never gave up, and we still haven't given up. Despite our exhaustion, we are tired of fighting this battle, being ignored. So it is so nice to see this beautiful crowd. Can you not hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm a consumer and human rights advocate. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor. But I do know about consumer rights, and I know about human rights. Why are consumer rights important? Well, federal law ensures that you have the right to informed consent and a right to refuse an emergency use authorized product that has never been tested or is undergoing testing. Masks are an EUA product. They're emergency use authorized. There's no testing that has ever been done, safety testing in particular, that has ever been done on masking. In particular, children for 7 to 8 hours a day. You want to know why I know that? Well, first of all, I did my own research, but then I did a public records request, not only of the CDC. I sent them a public records request, and I said, send me the random control trials that you have on a child wearing a mask 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 hours a day. I also want to know your safety studies on pregnant women wearing a mask 8 hours a day. You know what they sent me? They sent me a link on the proper way to wear a mask. There are no safety studies on children wearing masks 7 to 8 hours a day. We actually inquired of that of Bessie last year, 2020, July of 2020, before they implemented their Strong Start guidelines. We said, tell us how you know that these guidelines that you're implementing are safe. And we didn't just ask for the mask. We asked for social distancing. Tell us that that's not going to have any kind of mental impact on our children. Constant hand sanitizing. Tell us that's safe. You know what they were able to send us? Nothing on the safety of children wearing masks 7 to 8 hours a day, that it doesn't impact their brain function, that it doesn't have some kind of mental impact, fear, or constant fear. What does that do to a child? They had nothing for us on the constant hand sanitizing either. So that was a huge concern for us. I hope it's a huge concern for you as well. Once again, this goes back to a consumer's right to refuse. Under federal law, 21 U.S. Code 360 VVV, you have a right to refuse a product that's under EUA. We've heard about that from the vaccine perspective, right? The same thing for masks. They're under EUA. You have a right to refuse that. and for your children. Now, human rights, how does that come into play? Universally recognized treaties on human rights like the Nuremberg Code and UNESCO's Declaration of Bioethics and Human Rights. Things like the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential, and the interest and welfare of the individual should have priority over the sole interest of science and society. You know what that means? That means that we can't mask children because it's going to protect adults. That's a human rights violation. We cannot mask children to protect someone else. Right. That's wrong. Right. And it's universally recognized as a human rights violation. Now, these human rights have been incorporated somewhat into the laws that we have as citizens of the United States and as citizens of Louisiana. For example, right to privacy, specifically Article 1, Section 5 of our state's Declaration of Rights and our Constitution states that every person shall be secure in, among other things, his person. The government cannot intrude upon our person or that of our children. They cannot do that. So why is it important for us to know our rights? Because the people we elect swear to uphold those rights. The oath of office, this is one of the things I found out in the last 18 months, that the oath of office of every elected official in the state of Louisiana is the same. The governor and the school board member swears the same oath of office, and it goes like this. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and Constitution and laws of this state, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge them and perform all the duties incumbent on me. This Article 1, thus, Article 1, Section 1, it's number 1 in our Declaration of Rights. It states that the origin and purpose of government is to protect the rights of the individual for the good of the whole. Did you catch that? That's the number 1 declared right in our state's constitution. The origin and purpose of government is to protect our rights and that of our children. I don't think your local school board members are familiar with Article 1, Section 1, because their aim is the good of the whole. But that can only be achieved at the expense of the rights of the individual. Right. So what other sections of state law are they not familiar with? RS, which stands for Revised Statute, RS 29736D, which says that nothing in this chapter, talking about the emergency powers section of state law, nothing in this chapter shall be interpreted to diminish the rights guaranteed to all persons under the Declaration of Rights of our state's Constitution or the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. So even under a declared public health emergency, your rights as citizens of Louisiana and the citizens of the United States are not diminished. Your right to privacy is not taken away, okay? None of this is diminished under a public health emergency. Other rights that your school board members and elected officials have forgotten: freedom of religion. How many of you submitted a religious exemption for mask use when you started school for your children and they were rejected? Can you imagine if our government told a Muslim that they could not cover their face, right? Yeah. If our religion says that we cannot cover our face, our government cannot force us to do that. It goes back to our right to privacy and the security of our person. They cannot do that. They cannot force their religion on us. That's right. What are they worshiping right now? A shot. They're worshiping a shot, a vaccine, and a mask. They cannot force their religion on us. Another right that they have neglected The right to individual dignity. This is Article 1, Section 3 of our state's Declaration of Rights and our state's Constitution. No person shall be denied the equal protection of law. No law shall arbitrarily, capriciously, or unreasonably discriminate against a person because, among other things, their physical condition. The government, your schools cannot discriminate against your healthy children. That is their physical condition. And it's so important that these authors of our Declaration of Rights stated it again in Article 1, Section 12, freedom from discrimination and access to public areas, accommodations, and facilities. Every person shall be free from discrimination based on, among other things, physical condition. Prohibition of discrimination based on physical condition is in 2 places in our Declaration of Rights. It's that important. This one gets me. They are not aware of Article 1, Section 20, the right to humane treatment. No law shall subject any person to torture, among other things. But when we're sending our kids to school for 7 to 8 hours a day in a mask that has never been studied for safety, when we're granting our children a breathing break by requiring them to go to the back wall, face the wall, take off their masks to breathe, tell me we're not torturing our children. Article 1, Section 20. And then they have violated our parents' rights. Louisiana Children's Code specifies that a parent has a paramount right to make medical decisions, including preventative health care. What's a shot and what's a mask? It's supposed to prevent something. Who has the right to make that decision? Parents. Parents do. Your local school board's authority is outlined in RS 1781. It states that each local public school board shall serve in a policy-making capacity that is in the best interest of all students enrolled in school under the board's jurisdiction. Violating the rights of students and parents is not in the best interest of students. A judge in Lafayette this week dismissed a lawsuit brought by healthcare workers who said the hospital violated their right to privacy. The judge determined, incorrectly by the way, that the hospital is not a state actor. They're not your school board. But you know who is a state actor? Your school board. I gave it away. Your school board is a state actor. Article 1, Section 5, right to privacy, applies to them. But along with Article 1, Section 5, your school board has also violated your right to religious freedom. Right. They have violated your right to individual dignity. They have violated your right from freedom from discrimination. They have violated your parents' rights. And they have violated your child's right to humane treatment. This has got to end. That's right. It has got to end. So what do you do? What do you do about this? Lance and Russell were great to give us an overview. You have to reject apathy. Right. Being here today, being connected to freedom-fighting patriots, to lovers of freedom, is a great first step. But you have to reject apathy. You owe it to your kids to be an informed electorate. That's right. Know your state laws. One of the best things I did almost 20 months ago was read our state's constitution. We're familiar with our United States Constitution, but read the state's constitution and our Declaration of Rights. It has a wealth of protection in them. Now, are those the rights that the state has granted to us? No. Our rights come from God, right? These are just enumerated rights, the ones that the law has recognized and protects us from the government. Know your rights. The other thing you can do, of course, stay connected to Tiffany and her group, Lance and all these patriots in the area. We need to get connected across the state, but you have to recall your school board. Do it on Monday. Recall your school board. And never, ever elect traitors again. Okay, and our call to action, Health Freedom Louisiana. I have another grassroots effort called Reopen Louisiana. We have a purpose at the moment too, if you will, and that is to terminate the public health emergency in the state of Louisiana.
Right.
We've got to do it. It was attempted last fall, after the second extraordinary session in the legislature, that the majority members of the Louisiana House of Representatives signed a petition to terminate the public health emergency here in Louisiana. The governor immediately took those members to court, and that petition is still on the judge's desk today. So our goal today is to terminate the public health emergency using bicameral approval, meaning that both the House and the Senate sign a petition. The majority members of the House and the Senate sign a petition to terminate the public health emergency. It's given to them in law. Our legislature has that authority to terminate the public health emergency. But I don't know how familiar you are with local politics or state politics. Your senator, our senators across the state have done nothing in the last 20 months to protect your rights. They have sat down and watched as the House members got pounded for not doing anything. And here they are, a super majority in the Senate doing nothing, a super majority of Republicans. Does that mean they're conservative? No, not by any means. We need the majority of both the House and the Senate to terminate the public health emergency. So we have a call to action on our social media, if you will, our Facebook page, Telegram channel, Instagram. We have it on all of those social media platforms. Go to it, click on our advocacy tool called Voter Voice, send a message to your state rep and your state senator to terminate the public health emergency. Act with some courage. Act like you got a backbone and stand up to the governor. Good Lord. So that's what we have to do today. Reject apathy, get connected with patriots, and terminate this governor's tyrannical rule. Terminate the public health emergency. Thank you guys so much for asking me to speak to you.